everybody to our How HR Can Radically Influence the Culture virtual boardroom that is being facilitated by HR Recruit and Marita Price. My name's Jo Thompson. I'm a consultant for HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Marita, who will introduce herself shortly. Marita is going to explore the pivotal role HR plays in shaping organisational culture and how it can drive positive change within any company. If you've got any burning questions during the session, then please put them into the chat box facility and we will try and cover them as we go along. Oops, my phone's ringing. There we go. As there's quite a lot of content to go through, we will cover it at the end. But otherwise, we can try and cover things as we go along. I'm now going to hand you over to Marita, who will introduce herself and start the event.
Welcome, everybody, to How HR Can Radically Influence the Culture. Thank you for taking the time to join today, and even bigger thank you to the people who are on screen as well. I always love to know I'm actually delivering to human beings. It always helps to see a few faces. So that is fantastic. So appreciate more people coming on screen. Thank you. That makes it all the more real. There's humans behind this. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So come on in, and we want to make this an interactive. We want you to get the most out of the next hour. So that chat, we have Jo will be our chat fairy, and she will keep our eye on the chat. So put in any burning questions, things that you're challenging on. Let's try and get as much as we can covered in the next hour. So who gives me the authority to talk to you lovely people today? So my name is Marita Price. We are Hello Performance, and we are a workplace culture consultancy. So we do consultancy, we coach leaders, and we also run Culture Smart programs. So Culture Smart is one of our programs that we love to bring into companies so that everyone within the company is culture smart, especially the managers, which we will be coming to. So this is my experience actually of working with many different companies and interacting with HR, who are obviously key in culture and ensuring that we have a positive, engaging culture in companies. And I have come across many HR who've had challenges, and this is kind of the tips that we have gained along the journey with different companies and our experiences. So I want to share with you today, and hopefully you will gather maybe some insights, some fresh thinking, or maybe just some gems that you can take away and try in your own organization. So we believe everyone deserves a great workplace. Some of our clients here, Bailey of Bristol, they're a caravan and motorhome manufacturing, and we help them design their culture, which we'll be coming back to, around their purpose and their values and their behaviors, but more important, how to embed them across the company. We've just done their new engagement survey, their next engagement survey, which is fantastic results. We have Alan there in the middle there. He's from Bergen Overstrom. So we were coaching Alan as a HR leader, and he has driven some initiatives himself within the organization, and he has come out with some great results there, some super survey results, pulses. We'll be mentioning those as well. And Mickey up there on the right, they were moving their supply chain organization from the Netherlands to Poland, and it was going to be completely remote. And how do we ensure that they have a great culture? So we worked with them on designing and ensuring that their culture was embedded even in a warehouse across the continent. So what we'll cover today: we're going to share our 5-step system for building a great culture. We're going to share with you the 5 steps that we take organizations through, or we take leaders through. And then my 5 top tips for HR to influence the culture. So these are things that I've picked up that I really want to share with you, and hopefully you will get some insight. And then we'll have some live Q&A. But hey, as we go along, if we're talking about something and you have a question, stick it in the chat, because it's better to get the answer straight away. So you guys will be very au fait with the cost of a bad culture. So we look at employees who are actively looking for new jobs. This is some data from the Global Culture Research Project. 64% of them rated their workplace culture as poor, and 43 as average. That's telling us that when our culture is not great, we are losing people. And we know that talent retention is a big challenge for you guys right now, and keeping people, and staff turnover, what a cost it is to your organization. So Joe, let's launch poll number 1. Let's make sure everyone is giving some input into this presentation and not just Marita speaking. So poll number 1, which culture-related issues do you see currently in your organization? Oh, I see these people as single choice, but just give us one that you see right now in your organization. So are you getting the poll? Excellent.
Yeah, can you not see it?
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just it's good. And then when you think you have a large number answered, Joe, we'll share the results so everybody can see.
Yeah, there's 51 people answered, so
mega. Let's share the results. So, and if you want to answer it, no problem.
Can you see those results now?
Absolutely. So low morale, yes, this is a most common one, and especially after COVID as well. Low morale is a big one. High turnover rates. Oh my gosh, how much more work does that make for us in HR when we have high turnover rates? And the impact in the departments and the impact in the teams, and new people, new systems, new processes that you have to get across to new people, and onboarding and training, and that's high staff turnover can have such a massive impact. Difficulty in attracting talent, absolutely. Culture, there is a bigger and bigger demand across the generations now for that great culture. Increased conflict we see it a lot where departments or inside in teams that you have that conflict when culture is not great. Retention, absolutely, and decreased productivity, absolutely. And that's a really hidden one that we notice when organizations have bad cultures. So thank you for taking part in that. Let's keep going. So who wants some free gifts today? Hands up, hands up. What we want you to do is we have 3 free gifts. So you can have one or all 3 of them, whatever you want. So if you want a free gift, grab your mobile phone. Let's get the email ready. And then when I come across the free gifts, all you have to do is press send and you will get the free gift within the next 24 hours, not while I'm sitting here. So it's direct to me. Open your email in your computer or your phone and write Marita, not an easy name, Marita, Marita Price at helloperformance.co.uk. Get that in there, have the email ready, and in the subject, put gifts. And then put it to the side. Don't send it. It's only if it'll interest you when I hold up my little prizes to share with you. If they interest you, then you can press send, and then we can email them to you after. Okay, so hands up, get your phone ready. So as we come along, the gifts, I'll remind you of the email if you didn't capture it in time. So we are all working in a very different world than we were working in a few years ago. Our context of work has massively changed, and none of these things are a surprise to you. But when you look at them all together, look at the challenges you are facing, which have just intensified in the last few years. The younger generations are really driving for that purpose-driven organizations. They want to have purpose in their work. They want to have meaning in their work. We have multi-generational, 5 generations in our workplace right now. How do you satisfy all of them? These are the challenges you guys face every day. The skills gaps, making sure that you're filling. We have a company right now, and they're an engineering company, and they're massively struggling to recruit engineers. So they're really advancing their culture because they want to be use that as an attraction. Digital transformation. I think I read 86% of HR have gone through a digital transformation in the last 3 years. You now have to do more remote hiring and onboarding than we've ever done before. I think 81% of HR do some part of hiring and onboarding remotely. You've DEI, remote working, which we all know about from COVID, and employee well-being is a really top priority in many organizations. I'm looking up here because I have my facts up here. 83% of HR professionals said that it is a high priority for employee well-being. So these are all challenges, different things that have been thrown on the plate in the last few years, and culture encompasses all of these to help you work. It's harder than ever to create a great culture. But saying that, there's always a culture. You end up with one, whatever you do, so we can either choose to shape it or take our chances. So that is a really great saying to share with leaders when you're trying to influence them. And that's what a lot of the time we do in HR is we try and influence leaders and managers to consider their culture. But there's always a culture. It'll form, whether it's good or for bad. So we take our chances. Don't take your chances. Let's make sure we design it and make sure it is right so that the culture is great. Okay, Joe, poll number 2. What barriers do you face today to positively influence the culture?
Can you see that one?
Yes, we do. It's a single choice again, so but just choose one of the ones that is a biggest barrier for you today.
It says poll 4, but it's not. It is poll 2.
Poll 2. And when we feel we have a good number, you can share, Joe.
It's just still creeping up, so just
come back in.
Yeah,
take
more or less. Yeah, more or less
right.
everyone's done it, so I'll just end it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what you guys are challenging in. So inconsistent leadership support, the winner there. For what you face when positively influencing the culture. Very commonly, you'll have a few leaders who are into culture and understand it and can see the benefit in it. And you'll have some leaders, and I include managers there as well, who maybe may not see the value in the culture. Lack of executive support, resistance to change, absolutely. That is a biggest one. And this is all a journey, and you have to gradually, it's like a boulder, you have to push the boulder up the hill, and then there is a point where you come to the top of the hill and it'll take over itself. But until you get to that hill where the culture is strong and really embedded in the DNA and the veins of the company, you will be pushing that boulder. So just gradually pushing that and taking them step by step. And it takes a real strong effort, especially from HR, to move people along the change cycle for getting the culture to be great. So let me just move that little one out the way there. Great. So, right, gift number 1. So if you want one of the gift number 1, press that send button. You have the email prepared. If you send it now and there's other gifts you want, you get all 3. Don't worry, we will share all 3. So send the email if this is a gift you want. So we have a free culture design scorecard. It's 30 questions and it's an in-depth one now. This is not for the lighthearted. And it goes into detail in the different aspects of designing your culture. And what it tells you is how well designed is your culture for success. and it gives you a report and tips to do, which is great after immediate report and tips as well. So take it, use it, and see, can you get some tips to help you move that culture forward? But it helps you work out, is your culture designed for success or not? Or how much, what percentage it is. So that is the first gift. So if you want that, hit that send button. That was the email address again, Marita Price at helloperformance.co.uk. So we did a LinkedIn poll recently asking, is HR's role in shaping workplace culture often underestimated? 87% said yes. So you guys are the secret heroes. You guys are the heroes behind making that bolder move forward in the culture. So that is, we really appreciate that. You can often be underestimated, but when that culture is moving forward, you can be the architect behind that. So we really want you to know that we appreciate you and we know what hard work you are doing behind this. So our 5 stages to a great culture. How did we come up with this? This is through experience. What we worked out when we were going into companies is that we were doing the same thing again and again. We were gathering intel. We were finding out where the culture is at today. We were designing the culture, and we'll talk about these a little bit in depth further on, and we'll give you some tips on how to do it. Designing the culture, we activated, brought it alive, that launch, that here it is, and then embedding it, which is the really hard, tough work, is making sure it is part of the DNA of the company. And then we made sure we were measuring what we were doing was actually working. And the things that we wanted to embed, the behaviors that we wanted to see was improving. And that is a real measure. And you can measure culture month to month. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. It does not have to be a yearly survey. You can measure the culture to make sure, is that boulder moving forward or not? So let's get into some juicy stuff. Tips. This is what you came for, some ideas on what you can do to radically improve the culture. Some of this you will already know, it'll be a reminder to you, and some hopefully you will get some new ideas. So tip number 1, educate with hard facts. Now, some leaders will think culture is that fluffy stuff. Let's take it away from being fluffy and let's bring it down to brass tacks. No more fluffy, this is brass tacks. And the first 2 tips really relate to that. So educate with hard facts. So this is a slide we use when we talk with leadership to educate. And it's not about pushing it down their throats, it's about educating. They may not understand, how culture influences. 87% not engaged, actively engaged in the workplace. What does that mean to us? We have people who are not making that effort in the workplace. Oh my gosh, low-hanging fruit for productivity right there on their plate. Hey, companies that are focused on their culture are 21% more profitable. That's from the famous Harvard study over 11 years. So if long-term we want to be more profitable, guys, we need to focus on the culture. That's a great one for you to use when you are trying to get some consistency across that leadership around culture. So educating, bringing them on the journey, breaking down that resistance to change that you guys mentioned was a big barrier. 4 times more revenue, 20% less accidents. They say disengagement costs 8.8 billion across the global economy, 41% lower absenteeism. Who doesn't want more people turning up on the workday? Yes, we do. And the last one, I love this one. This down here in the bottom, this 6%. If there's one thing you can take away from this, 67% of execs believe that culture is more important than strategy and operations, but only 6% of time is spent on culture. So there is a mismatch there. So a lot of execs believe it is important, more important than strategy and operations, but only 6% of time is spent there. So you guys can really influence that. And that can be from just not knowing what to do, how to influence. It's too big. It's not so clear. It's all fluffy. Don't know what to do. But there is lots you guys can do in HR. So really nice facts there to share. Hey, more facts. Nearly 7 in 10% employees, 7 in 10 employees are quietly quitting. So this is from the 2023 of the global workplace, the state of global workplace that is done by Gallup. So these are these disengaged remainers. So people are checking out and not leaving and staying, which can be even more detrimental. And why are they staying? Because the economy is not strong. I'm not really sure about the cost of living. Can I leave now? I'll wait till things are more solid and then I might leave. Engagement or culture is cited as that top reason. 41%. Overpay or well-being. Again, hey guys, this is a low-hanging fruit for productivity that you could be selling into your leadership. So that's 72% quietly quitting. You have 15% loud quitting and 13% thriving at work. Now, this is a global one. And I'd ask you, what is it in your organization? Do you know today? I love this slide, sharing it with leaders, saying if we took those figures, which are obviously global figures, and 72% are quietly quitting or disengaged, you have 72% are admiring the view, you have those 13% who are thriving at work, who are making a great effort, and you have the 15% at the other side of the boat trying to sink your boat. And what you're trying to do is get more employees pushing and pulling those oars for you. And that it takes step by step, a systematic way to do that. Let's talk more about that. So education, and this continues on the education theme as well. Tip number 1. So let's just have a quick look on the chat. Nothing on the chat yet. No. So make sure you're sticking in any questions you have along the way. So tip number 2, gather and share. Where is the culture at today? What's our starting point? Where are we at today? And this relates to that education as well, that kind of bringing people on board with you. Where is the culture at today? And I'm not talking about your big yearly survey, which helps as well. I'm talking about finding out some really in-depth things. So this is that first stage of our 5 stages, that intel. If you know the intel, you can then work on it. So the more intel you have, the better. So every employee is a sensor. I love this graph, the iceberg of ignorance. So staff see 100% of the problems, execs see 4% of the problems. And where you can help as HR is gathering some of this and bringing it to their table so they can see where the culture is at today. So what other things can you consider? Not just that yearly survey, because when we do the yearly survey, if you do a yearly survey, or when you do it, you have massive interest in that outcome. And then over the year, it disappears off the radar and people have totally forgotten about it within 5 weeks of the session, of the survey. How do you keep that to the top of mind? So some questions, some other intel you can gather. Do you do leaving interviews? Do you do stay interviews? Even more valuable. Why do those great people, those top employees that you have, why do they stay? That's like gold. What's your staff turnover looking like? Your engagement surveys will give you an engagement. What else? How many good leavers did you have in the last month? I'm looking up here my list again. And even better, walking out there and asking today, 5 employees, hey, what's great about working here? What's not so great about working here? Those 100% staff, you will find the golden juice. We talk about gems and shadows in the organization. What are those gems that you definitely want to keep? And what are those shadows that we want to eliminate, reduce and eliminate? So walk out today, pick 5 random employees, have a chat with them on the shop floor and find out really what people say about the culture. That's like gold. And gathering that all together and sharing it. So we talk about having a dashboard about capturing and sharing that information and showing, are we getting better? Oh, before we get on to that one, look on, Indeed, what do they say about your organization? There's so many ways to find out culture intel. So what listening mechanisms exist in your organization today? So considering staff see 100% of the problem, the bottom of the iceberg, and the execs only see 4%, how are we finding out about that listening? So what listening mechanisms today do you have in your organization? And type in the chat if one's, and it's really good for others to see what you have. So type if you have some listening mechanisms. How do you hear what the employees have to say? So, and while you're doing that as well, type in GIF number 2. If you haven't pressed that send on the email, send it now. We have an infographic with 10 listening mechanisms. So to give you some ideas of other ways to find out what employees are saying and what is going good and what's not going so good. What's great about working here and what's not so great about working here. So there's the email again. If you want the GIFs, write in that email and that subject, and we'll send you the three GIFs. So that's 2 out of 3 GIFs we have given. We are being super generous today. How could we not, with all you lovely HR people? Absolutely. So tip number 3, intentionally design the culture. So this goes back to that slide going, a culture will form no matter what we do. So some of you will have an organization that has a purpose and maybe some values. And what we say is you should have the 3 foundations to a culture are the purpose, the values, and the behaviors. And we'll talk a little bit more of what behaviors do you want to see in an organization. And some of you may say, but hey, I don't have the authority to do this across the organization. And that's okay too. Start with a department or team that have a proactive, culture-friendly leader, and start in that department. Show the benefits in that department, and then you can move on to another department, and they can be like your ambassadors and your champions. So start small if you do not have the influence or authority to do it across the organization, because I appreciate not everyone will be in that position. But intentionally design the culture. So Marita, what do you mean by that? So designing the culture is like designing a house. Getting the design right is critical. If we don't have that design right, it will not work. And they were those 3 things. What is the purpose? Why do we exist more than making money? Values are, what do we value around here? What's really important? And not the fancy ones that are on a page that may mean nothing. I mean, really, truly, what do we value? Does that match with what is on that presentation? What's the real culture compared to what's on the PowerPoint slide? So designing your culture is that first step of designing your culture is that purpose, values, and behaviors are the foundations. We're going to speak a little bit more about behaviors. So a number of organizations will have gone to that. If you haven't got your values, that's okay too. Reach out to us and have a discussion about how to do that. We can walk you through how to do that. And the behaviors is taking it to the next level. This is some of the gold. So a really brilliant statement. The culture is defined by the lowest tolerated behavior. So turning that around, what is the lowest tolerated behavior in your organization right now? Because that's setting the bar for your culture. So the behaviors is really, really key. So 2 key things there. What are the behaviors you're expecting? And do the managers have the skills and resources to be able to reinforce them? So this is a client of ours, Kerry Group. They're a construction company in London, and they had their 4 values when we started working with them, and they wanted to bring it to the next level. They wanted to make it mean something, whether they were the cement mixer guys on the sites or whether you were on the board. they wanted the language to talk to them. And we set about defining, what does it mean to care? What does it mean to have passion? And what does it mean to have authenticity? Very hard word for an Irish person to say with a TH in the middle of the word. And humility. And bring that down to really clear behaviors. What we do and what we don't do. What we do around here and what we don't do. What gets rewarded and what gets punished. And we brought really clarity to each of those values. And you can do that with your values. What do we do and what do we don't do? And this has to work with a boiler room to the boardroom, across the organization. So those behaviors are what then you are saying will make this culture live. And they are something that is really critical that we focus in on. And they're what we embed across the organization and measure to ensure that they are moving forward. So as I mentioned, if you don't have the authority to run a behaviors, a gathering exercise, and helping the organization define that, then start with a little department or team that is very pro-friendly and is very pro-culture, and that manager, you'll know them. Start there. Do it for them. What works? What are the behaviors that they want to see, and what are the behaviors they don't want to see? And a behavior should be teachable and measurable. That's a good way for you to work out. So communicate well is not a behavior, because you can't really tell. It's not teachable and it's not measurable. However, we proactively share our challenges in our meetings, very measurable and teachable, as an example. Another example of a behavior is we don't repeat our mistakes. That's a really great example of a behavior. It's really measurable and teachable, or we are proactive about ensuring we don't repeat our mistakes. One of Carrie's is a very simple one. We say thank you and well done. It's a gorgeous one. So that was tip number 3, I think. Tip number 3. So let's go on to tip number 4. So let's have a quick chat. Right, let's just see how we're doing. Glassdoor can always can give you a glimpse into what employees think and feel also. Absolutely. Great insight. Capture that. Put it down. Share it with the leadership. Do they know what Glassdoor is saying about their organization? The colleague forum, lovely. Employee voice groups, fantastic. It's a great way. And having an exec sitting in that is a great idea as well. Absolutely fantastic. Focus groups, networks would be brilliant. Always different ways of making sure that you're listening. The more listening you have, the better. The ones I love that some of our clients have, they have an Ask Me Anything session with the CEO. They do, and the other one I really love is the stay interviews, really proactively going out on those, ensuring you're hearing why are people actually staying, and especially on that top talent that you don't want to lose. So tip number 4. Be systematic. So now we're moving up the scale of, we talked about intel, know where your culture is at today. We talked about design, getting that clear, the behaviors. If I know how to live the values, if I have clarity about that, it's much easier. Now we move on to embed. And embed is where you ensure that it's part of the DNA and part of the veins of the organization. And a lot of the time, some shiny new object comes along and we try something. We say, oh, it's performance reviews we need to do. Oh, we need that system for hiring. And it's this piecemeal or this shiny new object that distracts us and think that's going to solve all our problems with culture. And we need a systematic way to ensure it's embedded across the organization. Let's share how we approach it. First of all, you need a plan. And I'm going to tell you what should go in your plan, or share with you. You may have it in your plan already. But companies have sales plans. Companies have marketing plans. If culture is that critical, and we know how critical it is, why don't we have a culture plan? And getting that defined is really, really helpful, because then it helps you track the actions you were going to do. And again, sharing that with the leadership and management is really, really key. And helping departments. We have some organizations that have culture plans per department or per team, so that they know what they need to do in their teams to shift that boulder along. So let's see how we go about building an embed plan. So we'll have done our design, designing our culture. Ritualizing is part of our activating phase, which we haven't really spoken about today, with conscious of time. So on the embed, how are you selecting? How are you ensuring that this will build on your culture? The people that you're selecting will build on your culture. I'm very cautious to say culture fit, because that can be really mono, but will they build on the culture? How are you onboarding, keeping that passion? People start in companies and they're full of passion. They're like, I'm so excited about my new job. So how is it that we end up with 72% that are actively disengaged or quietly quitting? So something happens. What are we doing to them in the organizations as they stay? So we want to keep that passion. We want to keep that energy up here. So onboarding is really critical. How do you onboard the culture to the new employees? Number 5, which I'm highly passionate about, is coaching managers. And coaching managers, so those behaviors that we spoke about, it's no good defining them unless we have managers who have the skills to reinforce those behaviors, to reward the behaviors that we really want to see, yes, and to pull up people where the behaviors are not right, where they're not in line with the behaviors we want to see. And when they are defined, what we observe is, when we have defined them, like we did in Carey's, where it's what you do, what you don't do, it is so much easier for the managers to have those difficult conversations. Giving feedback, much, much easier, because then we're talking about where there is clarity. I know what the behaviors are expected, and this is what I'm seeing. So helping the managers, and the managers are winning key to culture in my eyes. So we've selected, we've onboarded, we've coached our managers, we communicate the culture, regularly communicating the culture, whether it's through town halls, newsletters. How are you regularly communicating the culture? We talk about, you should see it, hear it, and feel it regularly. Do you see your culture, hear your culture, and feel it regularly? Reboarding, another part of your culture plan. How do we ensure that the people who've been there a long time are reboarded? Sometimes they can be much, much more difficult to bring on the culture journey. And you need to reinforce the culture with them and do some reboarding sessions to help bring them along on that change journey as well. The leaders are the leaders walking the talk. You can actually measure this very easily and give them feedback if they're open to that. Aligning your processes. So your systems, your meetings, decision making. There are 3 examples of where you need to align your systems and processes around your culture. So do your meetings reinforce the culture or detract from the culture? Do your decision making reinforce the culture or detract? So fast moving or is part of your culture, for example, but decision making has to go through 120 people to get an approval, then you are killing your culture. And the same with meetings. Just the meetings, and a great way to tell a culture in a team or department is sit in one of their meetings. Oh my gosh, you can tell so fast what the culture is in that department. But aligning how we run our meetings around our culture. And accountability, that is the gold, the accountability. Do the managers and leaders have accountability? And that is really at that in part of embedding. Unless there is accountability, you never get to that final stage. But there's so much can be done even to get to that point. So, and our bonus one is measure and track improvement. measure and track improvement. So this again is sharing what's working. You know, is your staff turnover coming down? Is your engagement going up? What does your culture design scorecard tell you? Have you shifted some of that? What about those behaviors that you talked about in that we talked about earlier? Are they getting better? So each behavior, how much is that being lived right now? If we say 50% are doing it right now, and you can go out with a quick pulse very quickly to find out how many people are living it or not for this behavior. So the one we have been working on recently with actually with Bailey is my manager gives me valuable feedbacks in my one-to-one. And we went out and pulsed that and said, how much of your organization, how much do you, how much time does it, do you strongly agree with it or totally disagree with it? And we got our percentage, and then we are now tracking that monthly to see, is that getting better? So that training that's happening with the managers, is that working? Are more people saying they're getting better feedback in their one-to-ones? That's culture. That's moving the boulder along. So when I talk about sharing this information, we talk about having a culture dashboard. And you might hear that word and go, oh, but we don't have that fancy system for the culture dashboard. Don't worry if you don't have a fancy system. You can put this all on a PowerPoint slide. It doesn't even need to be fancy. If you have the system, easy peasy, brilliant. But if you don't, all those gorgeous things we were talking about, are they on your culture dashboard? So this is an example from one of our clients. So as you can see, this is no magic system. This is done free by the HR who said, let's share the knowledge that we have about our culture intel. So they track their culture design. So they use our scorecard, the free scorecard that I shared with you on the gifts. So send that email. New hire satisfaction. So they believe that, hey, the employees come in really passionate and they want to keep them up there. So they measure them at 30, 60, 90, and they're at a red there. So the satisfaction around the employees is not so great right now. So that's one that they're focusing on to shift on. The engagement salaried, they measure that, is at orange. Engagement hourly is at red. So they want to shift that along. So this is an example of a starting point for the organization, building then the actions around that so that we shift those to the positives. Staff turnover costs, they have put that down as a measurement because that's a real dollar figure that talks to the financial driven people in the organization. And here is a lovely one. My manager gives me valuable one-to-one feedback in the last month. So that's a behavior that they want to move forward. And every month they pulse that and said, are we getting better or are we getting worse? So we know that the culture is moving forward there and getting better. So that's an example of a culture dashboard. Nothing fancy, but it tells a story and it gives information that can be put up again and again in front of managers and leaders. And you guys can build this very easy. Canva actually helps a lot if you want to use that. So have you calculated the hidden cost of the organization staff turnover in pound signs? So that number that I gave there, do you calculate that hidden cost? So we know about recruitment costs as a very clear, measurable, but there are so many hidden costs. And you guys know this more than anyone, the hidden costs that are there. But putting that all together is a really great way of sharing the hidden costs. So we have a calculator, an Excel calculator that does this. So who wants it? Fifth number 3, here we go. If you haven't sent that email, send it now. We will send the Excel to you so you can go along and calculate the cost of the hidden cost of staff turnover to you, that total cost, not just the visible one, but that total cost of staff turnover. This is a great one for getting the eyes and for inconsistent leaders to help them understand, hey, this is where we could save time and money if we reduce the staff turnover, and turning it into dollar figures. So yes, so send that email. There's the email address again. If you haven't done it already, and we will get those 3 gifts over to you at super speed this afternoon. So what have we covered? We've covered the 5-step process, gathering the intel, which you can all do. Go out and ask 5 people. If you don't have it right now, but you have so much information, whether it's Indeed, Glassdoor, stay interviews, leavers interviews, customer feedback, another great way to get insight. Capture all of that, stick it on your dashboard so that you can track, are we getting better or not? Then the next stage was design the culture. The next stage was, there you go, Ian. The next stage is design the culture. The next stage is activate and bring it alive. And that next one was embed the culture. Do we have a plan on how we're going to embed it? Instead of just focusing on 1 or 2 things, we need to make sure that we're systematic. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we see organizations do around culture, not having a systematic approach to improving the culture. So that's a really, really key one. Embedding and measuring the culture, really important. You need to show that the culture is moving forward. Otherwise, everyone will say it's just fluffy, and we don't do fluff. And the 5 top tips for HR to influence the culture is what we shared today. And we hope that you got something, a little insight, some idea that you can use, that you can take. And we'll have some time now for Q&A. So we'll come on to the Q&A, but while we're doing Q&A, I want each of you, and this is a little bit of a, hey, I've got value from this hour and I'm going to do something about it, because one of our values is we have impact. So to pay back for me coming here, please share with me, did you get a gem? And what are you going to do about that gem? Even if it's the smallest little thing, you're going to go out and talk to 5 people, put it down, tell me what your gem, put it in the chat, and we'll share our gems and pledges, because sometimes we're more likely to succeed when we actually write it down. So this is me making sure you're committing to doing something, and that shows you got real value from your time spent here, and that you're having impact as well. So we have now 10 minutes, Joe, for Q&A while people are writing. Sheena's saying stay interviews. Oh, Sheena, you've warmed my heart. Love it. They are fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant. Can I give you a real great tip, Sheena, as you mentioned that? One great question to ask in a stay interview. We all got our pens ready. Is, what's one thing another company could offer you to make you consider leaving? What's one thing another company could offer you to make you consider leaving? So you're not saying you're leaving, but what would make you consider? It normally tells you kind of what's at that top of the list for them. So a really great one to ask, Sheena. Let me go back. Love the statement about culture being defined by the lowest. Oh, Sarah, yes, absolutely. And bang on about that in the organization. What or how are we setting the bar? What's the lowest tolerated behavior? Ask a manager, what's the lowest tolerated behavior in their team or department? Asking the 5 people, Liz, love it. And the reboarding, yes, a very difficult one, the reboarding, but a golden one if you can start to introduce it. Samantha saying stay interviews, building a scorecard, teachable and actual behaviors, love it. You're building your values and will incorporate, absolutely. So trick there, Fiona, define the values first, then do the behaviors. Otherwise, you'll get all mixed up. So get the values, what's important in your organization first, get that nailed, and then go, all right, to live this behavior or to live this value, what behaviors would we want to see and what would we not want to see? Annie, what we do and what we don't do is something I will take. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Annie. Lisa, as a standalone, this information is so beneficial, was all helpful. Oh, fantastic, Lisa. Emma, I'm going to review your scorecard and see if I can replicate something. We do loads of service, not sure where the information goes. Absolutely. Great one, Emma. And this is actually more of an overview on the organization, the scorecard we do. So it's not really, you wouldn't be sending it out to managers and stuff. It's a kind of, how is your organization set up right now for culture? So just consider when you see it, the questions that are in there. Sue, the idea there's always culture, you may as well shape it. Love it. My favorite statement. Great tips to use with execs. Fantastic. Alexandra, scorecard, stay interviews, focus groups. Love it. And Janice doing a quick pulse survey after management coaching. Good measurement. Pulse every month. 1 or 2 questions. You can get so much information. Pulse, and use that on your dashboard. Concept managers being great coaches, they are pivotal. Oh, Razilla, the managers are the key. They are the ones. And remember, if they're not engaged, you will no way is their team going to be engaged. So focusing first on those managers, a great one to do. Joe, did we miss anything up there?
Yeah, there's one from quite earlier on, about 5 minutes ago. So Sting has asked, how do you do reboarding for large teams, please?
Yes, Sting, not an easy and straightforward answer. It's considering how you onboard. For large organizations, there is massive benefit on doing it. So we have one corporate we work with, and they're a food company. They are one of the biggest corporates in the world. We are not responsible for their culture. We are responsible for one little part of it. They do their onboarding. So the onboarding matches the reboarding. So the onboarding, they do local onboarding first, around my team, my area, my site, what we produce here. They're the food manufacturer. Then they do a global onboarding, and you need to book onto one of those sessions. So it tells you about the organization as a larger organization. And then they work at the culture at that level, and they do some exercises, bringing the values to life, all online, remotely, and they bring the values to life. And they have taken that concept and also do reboarding. So they invite their staff to come to reboarding once a year, where they meet others from the global organization, and they do a fun, values-driven session around values and behaviors on board as well. And they find out some golden stuff in there that helps them feed in what do they need to be doing to improve the culture. So that is just one way. It's about bringing the values to life. It's about communicating the values. You can do for large, you have to do it obviously cross country as well. But whatever way you do, whether it's local or large, it's about bringing those values and behaviors to life, making it fun, and regularly inviting people to come along. If you're not having that, in your town halls is a great way to do it. So one example we have is we've got 3 sites. They do a town hall at each site in one of our clients. And part of the town hall is they take 10 minutes, they take a value, they take a behavior, and they work on in their teams, and they do different exercises saying, share an example in your team of where you've seen this being lived. And share an example of where you see it not being lived. What do you need to do more in a team? What actions do you commit to? Exercises like that. So it's about bringing it to life, the values and the behaviors. Sting, I hope that gave you some ideas.
Yes.
Good. Anything else, Joe, in there?
Just some comments, really.
So, how do you seek feedback without over-promising and under-delivering? Asking sometimes raises expectations. Oh, Wendy, great observation. So, for me, do not embark on a large survey, like a site survey, unless you are committed to making something happen. So, gathering the information and then identifying What are those 3 actions you're going to take? What are those 3 things you're going to tackle that are going to have the impact on the organization? Picking a low-hanging fruit, picking something quite more significant that will have an impact. So picking 3 things is what we recommend. And then communicating. I see Rosilla wrote, be honest. And actually, it's so true. You have to stand up and say, lots of things we need to fix in this organization. Oh my gosh. But we can't fix everything. These are the 3 things we're going to focus on. And every newsletter, every town hall, every chance you have of communicating, the manager should be reinforcing this as well, is saying, remember those 3 things you raised? Here's what we have done. Here is what we are doing. And this is what we're going to do. Again, update next month. Remember those 3 things that we talked about, because we have very short memories. Remember those 3 things that we picked out of the survey? This is what we have done. This is what we're doing. And this is what we're going to do. You have to repeat. Humans need to hear things 7 times before it starts even going in. So I hope that answered that question, Wendy. Thanks, Rosilla, for commenting. Fiona, this has been a really super practical session. Oh, I love practical, Fiona. Love it. Don't like fluffy. We need some actions we can take away. And thank you for your insights and passion and energy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Feel free on the email to give a review. I'd love it. That would be fantastic. Right, Joe, anything else we've missed?
Don't think so. No.
We've covered well, and we finished with 2 minutes to spare for these lovely HR folks to have a pee and a coffee before their next meeting.
I'll just do a quick close.
Yeah.
So, wow, what a fantastic inspirational session that was, Marita. Loads of tips. I'm sure that everyone's taken loads away. Obviously from the comments, I'm assuming that they have. So what I'll do this afternoon is I'll put a post on LinkedIn. So if you'd like a copy of the recording and or the slides, then please put a comment against the LinkedIn post. I'll send out an email to everyone that's signed up for the event, and I'll put the LinkedIn post on there. There's also our next event is on Thursday, the 9th of May at 12:30, and it's called Work for Life Balance. What is it and how do you know when you've got there? So a link to sign up to that session will be included in the email. If anyone's recruiting, we've also got accountancy recruit, FD recruit and exec recruit within the group. But otherwise, I'd just like to say a massive thanks to Marita for delivering such an insightful session. And thanks very much for everyone for turning up. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Thank you.